Hello, welcome to this live stream session where we are going to discuss principles of landscape design. Principles of landscape design. So please, if you're here and you're ready for the lecture, indicate by giving us a thumbs up. If you're here and you're ready for uh, this training, give us a thumbs up or drop a comment in the comment section so we would know that you are here and you're ready. So while I expect that, I continue. So um during our last discussion we introduced landscape design and management and all that entails, but today we are going to go down to something new, or okay, not something new, something we mentioned in the passing when we were discussing the other day. So good day once again, everyone. Good day, everyone. Welcome to today's lecture on landscape design principles. This topic is a core component of landscape horticulture, and it forms the foundation for how we plan, design, implement, and evaluate landscapes, whether in homes, schools, estates, parks, highways, churches, hotels, or public institutions. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to explain each design principle. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to explain each design principle, identify them in real landscape, and most importantly, apply them practically when creating or evaluating landscape in the Nigerian tropical environment. I hope you can hear me very clearly. Yeah, my background is a bit noisy, but I can't help it. So I said by the end of this lecture, you should be able to explain each design principle, identify them in real landscapes, and most importantly, apply them practically when creating or evaluating a landscape in the Nigerian tropical environment. So let's begin. The concept of landscape design. Landscape design is both an art and a science. I repeat, landscape design is both an art and a science. It is an art because it involves creativity, beauty, aesthetics, and visual appeal. I said it is an art because it involves creativity, beauty, aesthetics, and visual appeal. It is a science because it relies on ecological principles, plant biology, environmental studies, and spatial planning. So that is why landscape design is described as both science, defined as both science as and an act, because one, as an act, because it involves creativity, beauty, aesthetics, and visual appeal. It is a science because it relies on ecological principles, plant biology, environmental studies, and spatial planning. So in Nigeria and other tropical and subtropical regions, landscape design must consider climate, it must consider rainfall, it must consider temperature, soil type, local plant species, cultural preferences, and intended use of space. I repeat again, landscape design must consider climate, rainfall, temperature, soil type, local plant species, cultural preferences, and intended use of space. Landscape design is not merely planting of flowers. No, landscape design is not merely planting flowers. It is the intentional arrangement of land. It is the intentional arrangement of plants, water features, structures, and open spaces to create order, beauty, function, and sustainability. Purpose of landscape design. Landscape design serves many purposes. Landscape design serves many roles. One, aesthetic enhancement, beautifying homes, campuses, parks, hotels, commercial areas. That's aesthetics enhancement, beautification of what? Environment. Beautifying homes, campuses like my institution, parks, hotels, and commercial areas. Environmental protection, reducing erosion, improving air quality, regulating temperature. Yeah, these are the rules of what? Landscape design. Maybe if time permits us, we may break these ones down a little, that we may break them down a little further. So another function is as in a functional use of space. Yeah, like walkways, parking, relaxation areas, and playgrounds. Cultural expression, using plants and forms that reflect local identity. Psychological benefits, reducing stress, improving mental health. I mentioned this in our first class in our first interaction on landscape design and management, where I told you its importance in health therapy, mental health therapy. Economic values, increasing property value, supporting tourism, creating jobs. With these foundations, let's move into the core principles. Let's move into the what? Core principles. Landscape design principles. We mentioned this in our first discussion. Yeah, we mentioned them in our first discussion. So today we are discussing them in totality. Landscape design is guided by several universal principles. These principles helps us create orderly, attractive, and functional outdoor space. Yeah, these principles help us create orderly, attractive, and functional outdoor spaces. The major principles are, like I mentioned in the first class, unity, balance, proportion, rhythm and repetition, simplicity, variety, focalization or focal points, scale. Yeah, there are eight of them, eight major principles. I repeat them: unity, balance, proportion, rhythm and repetition. Rhythm, RHYTHM. Rhythm and repetition. Simplicity, variety, focalization or focal point. Just use the word focal point. The eighth one is scale. We will take each one, explain it, and apply it to practical Nigerian examples. Let's start with unity. Unity means harmony. Unity in literally means harmony. A landscape has unity when when all its elements, both the plants, structures, parts, lawns, color, all work together as one complete whole. Just like I explained before, all of them work together to form a whole design. So a landscape has unity when all its components, plants, structures, parts, lawns, colors work together as one complete whole, yeah, to achieve unity. Yeah, so to achieve unity, repeat similar plant types, use consistent colors, use materials that match, arrange plants in logical patterns, ensure everything contributes to the word intended theme. Ensure everything contributes to the intended theme. One example I use all the time in physical lectures, physical classrooms, one example I use in landscape design when it comes to principles of design is sewing of a clothes. If you can make a good tailor or seamstress, you can make a good what? Landscape design expert. Because your ability to combine both colors, plants, and all these things and make all of them to form one piece of cloth that is beautiful is what makes you a good designer. And same thing applies to what? Landscape design. Your ability to put all these together and have one piece of design that looks beautiful is what makes you a good designer. So, practical Nigerian examples using the same hedging plants, such as Duranta along the entire compound wall, planting a row of royal palm on both sides of a driveway, like on the driveway, on both sides of the driveway, you use the same plant, the same palm, whether the dwarf kings or the royal palm. Use same plant on both wall sides, using one color palette. Example: yellow green shrubs with red flowering plants in a front yard. So unity Unity prevents the landscape from looking scattered and confused. Unity prevents the landscape from looking scattered and what? Confused. So that's about the first principle. The second principle is balance. Balance refers to the visual equilibrium of the landscape. There are two types of balance. One, formal balance, otherwise known as symmetrical balance. What does this mean? This means both sides of the landscape are mirror image of what? Are mirror images. That is to say, what you have on this side is what you have on what? This other side. That is what we call symmetrical what? Balance. That's formal balance. So, for example, a church entrance with two royal palms of equal height on both sides, a hotel driveway with the same shrubs on both sides, an academic building with matching flower beds left and what? Right. Then we have the second one, B, which is the informal balance. That's the asymmetrical balance. Asymmetrical balance. Both sides are not identical, but they still feel what? Balanced. Example: one side may have a long, one side may have a large tree, while the other has several small shrubs. A walkway with mist uneven planting that feels natural but balanced. So in Nigeria, most residential compounds use informal balance because the spaces are irregular and the design need flexibility. So that's about balance. Let's talk about proportion. Proportion describes the size, sorry, proportion describes the size relationship between different elements. Good proportion ensures that plants are not too big or too small. for the space. Trees do not overshadow small houses. Shrubs do not block windows. Lawn, lawn areas are not too tiny compared to the paved area. Let me repeat this. Proportion describes the size relationship between different elements. Good proportion ensures that plants are not too big or too small for the space. Trees are not, as in trees do not overshadow small houses. Shrubs do not block windows. Lawns are not too tiny compared to paved areas. It will look awkward if you see a lawn that is too small while the paved area is very large. The lawn area should be proportional to the what paved area. You don't pave more area than the lawn area. So example, planting a huge melina, planting a huge melina tree in a small compound is a bad proportion. You are planting a very big melina in a small compound. That's a very bad proportion. Using dwarf palms in front of a bungalow maintains good proportion. That's beautiful. Using dwarf palms in front of a bungalow maintains good proportion. Large estates can handle large trees like almond. What I mean by almond, I mentioned it in our first class. Flamboyant and coconut. Yeah, you can use them in what? Large compounds. Proportion is especially important when selecting tree size, plant spacing, and house plant distance. Proportion is especially important when selecting tree size, plant spacing, and house plant distance. Let's look at reading and repetition. Reading and repetition. So, repetition means repeating elements. What are the elements? Plants, colors, shapes. Repeating them throughout the landscape. That's what repetition means. Reading is the result. Yeah, it creates movement and flow that leads the eye around the world landscape. I repeat this so you don't get confused. Repetition means repeating elements throughout the world landscape. And what are the elements? Plants, colors, and shapes. While rhythm is the result, it creates movement and flow that leads the eye around the world landscape. Example, repeating hibiscus shrubs along a walkway. Alternating colors, you have yellow green crouton, red crouton, yellow green crouton. You know, alternating the colors. You put this, you put that, you put this again, you put that. Alternating the colors. Using stepping stones at equal intervals to guide movement. Using stepping stones at equal intervals to guide what movement. Repeating potted plants along the veranda. These are all rhythms and repetition. Examples of rhythms and what repetitions. Just like the buttons you put on your clothes. The way you put, you maybe you puff your shoulder here, puff your shoulder here. Rhythms and repetitions. So rhythms help the viewer predict the outcome. Rhythm helps the viewer predict what comes next, making the design feel organized and intentional. So the next thing to discuss is simplicity. Simplicity. What's simplicity? Simplicity means avoiding unnecessary cluster. A simple landscape uses only the plants needed, avoids missing too many colors or species, keeps pathways clear, uses a limited palette of design materials. Example of good simplicity: two hedging species and one tree type in a compound. Two hedging species and one tree type in a compound. That's one example. Another example is a clean lawn with a single flower bed. A clean lawn with a single flower bed. Another one is a soft contrast of green shrubs and one flowering species. So, simplicity is powerful, especially in small Nigerian homes where space is limited. The simpler the design is, the more beautiful and the less likely you are to make mistakes. The simpler you keep your design, the lesser the mistakes. Yeah, the simpler the design, the what, the less, the lesser the mistakes. So let's look at the number six, which is variety. Variety adds interest and excitement. Variety adds interest and excitement, preventing the landscape from becoming monotonous. Variety can come from plant height differences, leaf texture differences. This one may be smooth, the other one may be coarse. Color differences, mixture of trees, shrubs, ground covers, and flowers. Let there be varieties. Once you once you use the same thing all over, using the same thing all over makes the design very monotonous and it kills interest. So you need to use varieties in a landscape to make it what interesting and what pleasing to the eye. However, variety must be balanced with unity and simplicity. Too much variety causes confusion. Too little variety causes boredom. What a contrast. Too much variety causes confusion. Too little variety causes boredom. Yeah, that's the law of nature. Example: mixing croton, izora, hibiscus, and lilies in the same bed, using different texture, ferns, palms, and grasses. Beautiful. Using color contrast, yellow duranta and red rose. Beautiful. These are simple things you can do to increase the aesthetics and beauty of the words of your design. I repeat again, using color contrast. For instance, yellow duranta plus what red rose. Using different textures. For example, ferns plus palms plus grasses. Mixing croton, izora, hibiscus, and lilies in the same bed. So before I continue, there's this video I uploaded on this channel after our first interaction on after our first live stream on landscape design and management. Look at those flowers, those ornamentals, the beautiful ornamentals. Is a 1 minute a 1 minute video of ornamentals from our garden, our flower garden. So after this online streaming, go back and look at those pictures and observe the ornamentals. It will help you appreciate what we are discussing. So the seventh principle here is focal point, in parenthesis focalization. A focal point is an element of sorry, a focal point is an element that draws attention immediately. Like I said, in my university where I lecture, there is a tower at the middle of the university. If you are approaching from the beautiful gate of the university, that tower serves as what? A focal point. Even my university gate serves as what? A focal point. Was that's the first thing you notice if you're driving towards the university from the what? Highway. It's a very beautiful statue, very beautiful, magnificent edifice that draws the eye to the university, to the landscape. So a focal point is an element that draws the gate itself is beautiful and is a clear, so the gate itself is beautiful and a good focal point of its own. So examples of focal points: a statue or sculpture at the entrance of a roundabout. You get that? Examples of focal points: a statue or sculpture at the center of a roundabout. We have that all over cities, both in Nigeria, Africa at large, and Europe and Americas. A fountain at the entrance of a hotel is a focal point. Once you walk into the a hotel and see a fountain, there's no way you not notice it. That's where your eye goes to first. That's the focal point. A flamboyant tree in an open lawn, a large potted plant at a doorway, a brightly colored flowering shrub in a garden. These are all focal points. A focal point must be used carefully. If everything becomes a focal point, the landscape loses order. Yeah, focal points must be used carefully. Everything must not become a focal point in a design. So let's look at scale. Scale